so glad that all of y'all can make it. Thank you very, very much. We might have a few stragglers coming across the bridge. There was an accident in Bluffton this morning due to the fall. So we might have some parents still coming forward. And we're also, if everybody wants to give a quick wave, we're also streaming this too as well to any families that couldn't make it. What you just encountered is how we start our day in the lower school. The Crowley building as well as in this building. We do a good, the fifth graders have the responsibility of ringing the bell here as well as in the Crowley building, the Littles building, so that we can pay homage to our country. When they cross over to the middle school, we still honor our country through advisory. We all do the Pledge of Allegiance through advisory then too as well. So before we begin, I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Paul.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everybody. This is certainly not my show this morning, and I appreciate this. Let me just say good morning. There's a lot of friendly faces, and I know that the transition years are really important for us. Something we've spent a lot of time working. Well, in this case, Cleteus is going to hand them off to Cleteus from the 5th to 6th grade, lower school to the middle school, but something I've asked for, and that Tina and Cleteus are doing a really good job with, is really looking at those transitions between divisions, so that when we look at curriculum and just culture, it feels like one school. It feels like they're really they know what to expect. So, you know, I said to a couple people earlier that the groundhogs did see a shadow. I don't know if you heard this, but so we're going to have to endure 6 more weeks of this tough Hilton Head Prep. You know, it's really hard on us coming down from Virginia. But I do think that you know, as you're looking into the middle school and some of the things that are happening in middle school, I know that you know, they're working on the lower school math curriculum now, but we are looking at curriculum throughout the school. They're starting and piloting an AI elective in the middle school, starting I think in the next few weeks. So that's going to be exciting. It's something that we're trying to sort of look ahead of those things and make sure these kids are going to get all the things that they're going to need by the time these kids get to upper school. Things are going to look even a little bit different. And we're doing a lot of great work in the upper school. Not just with classrooms and desks and chairs and flooring and things like that, but really looking at, you know, what we do, why we do it. An update, I am working on hiring a new full-time college counselor, which seems like a long way off, but I promise you, you're going to blink, and we're going to be thinking about what comes after prep. Don't cry or anything like that. We will. We'll do that together. But, you know, those are the kinds of things that are happening. If you see some people around campus with, you know, construction-looking uniforms, things like that, the installation is finally getting completed on all the new locks that we talked about earlier in the year. That was a huge project. Joe LaValle and Hiram Rodriguez sort of led that work and did a really thoughtful job looking at campus safety. You saw some new fencing around campus, so we don't get eaten by the alligators. Everyone kind of smiles when I say it, but I've seriously seen so many alligators in that. I feel much more comfortable now behind the football field and some of the new things that we've been doing, trying to be really purposeful with that. So, you know, I definitely don't want to take too much of Cleteus' time this morning. I've got some meetings coming up, but thanks for being here. And you all can call me anytime if any questions about the transition or things going on in the school. Always available for you. So, thanks.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to middle school. Before we begin, we've had some delicious coffee right back there that Miss Constance made. It's better than McDonald's or not Mickey D's, but Paul's doing it right now. Better than Dunkin' Donuts, so please help yourself at any time. And I just want to welcome to middle school. This is what we're going to be covering this morning. You'll notice it's a lot because that's the reason why we're having this conversation today. We have a lot to share with you, a lot of information, because your child is going to be having a brand new adventure. They've been with us. Some of them have been from JK all the way to 5th grade, and they've been pretty much in a little bubble. We've been trying to protect them and keep them in that bubble as much as we possibly can. Now they're getting ready to start a brand new adventure, an exciting adventure. And it all begins with all these things right here. We're going to share with you some of the exciting things you can expect during the years of adolescence. Growth spurts like you've never witnessed before. Hormone changes from one second to the next. An increased need for personal hygiene. Feelings of tiredness followed by impulsivity. And ranges of emotions from one second to the next. Middle school often gets a bad rap. It really, really does. At prep, we really appreciate being in the middle. We certainly do. We appreciate these foundational years as it determines often what their future is going to unfold. In life, we experience 3 different types of development. We experience cognitive, social-emotional, and physical. During adolescence, all 3 of these developments collide all at once, often at times. And before we delve into the nuts and bolts of all these different things right here, what we're going to do is we're going to start with what makes this age period so special. We have an incredible, talented faculty that really appreciates this age, really loves this age, and enjoys working with this age. And they're extremely, extremely gifted. We have 2 of these individuals to talk today to you. The first being Ms. Sarah Benedict. Sarah Benedict teaches 6th grade science, as well as she teaches global studies. My predecessor, when I first came here, and I'm sorry I'm saying this, but my predecessor, when I first came here, Darcy, she said, oh, and if you need anything in 6th grade, be sure to speak with Sarah because she is the 6th grade mom. And she really, really is. And she takes care of them just as like they're her own. So Sarah is going to come up today to tell you a little bit about what to expect in regards to the social and emotional development. Sarah, come on up.
So if anyone hasn't seen that movie before, that's Inside Out. Even though it's a cartoon, it's completely insightful to what's going on in your kid's head. At the same time, literally all of them at the same time, or jumping from this in a 10-minute span. And anyone that's had a 6th grader knows that it doesn't matter boy or girl. This is a good visual kind of for literally what they're going through all the time. And then, of course, the brain. So I'm stepping in a little bit to teach kind of this is all the day-to-day stuff that sometimes I don't actually see some of this. Sometimes you get some of this unloaded on you at home. Our kids do spend a lot of time at school trying to manage a lot of this. I actually had a conversation yesterday with an 8th grade student in one of my electives, and she said, I wish you knew who I was after school. I'm such a different person. She said, I'm so quiet when I'm here, and I just don't stop talking when I get home. I said, are you just trying to manage to kind of get through the day? And she's like, I am. And so sometimes we have parent conferences, and the parents are like, well, we'll explain how they are at school or in the classroom, and they're like, wow, that's not the kid that gets in the car at the end of the day. So that's why we have to work together, because we're seeing all of these personalities at different times that are coming out. So my favorite thing to say about 6th grade, and you'll hear me say this again next fall at parent-teacher back school night, is 6th grade is a hot mess. They are a hot mess, and we just acknowledge it, and then we embrace it, and we live in the hot mess for the entire school year, and then they're amazing, and then thank God it's Groundhog Day. Then it's Groundhog Day for me all over, because then I get to go back to August and start with my new hot mess, and then work and get them to these amazing, ready to go 7th graders. So I say that with love and adoration. It is not an easy year. There's so many things going on, but we are completely there to help them, every step of the way.
So as you can see right now, we're experiencing a transition because this is in preparation for the middle school years. So what they're doing is so that each class is self-contained up until 4th grade. They stay in their own little classroom up until 4th grade. To help begin the transition, we started thinking about this last year in 4th grade so that they can start beginning to understand the importance of going from one classroom to the next. The only difference is that you're not going to have the teacher guiding them to the next classroom. They will be responsible for themselves to get from one classroom to the next.
It's kind of cute because at the end, like in the first week, at the end of the class, I'm like, okay, it's time to go to math, and they all just stand and look at me and like, go to math. Go to math, it's okay. And they're, oh, I'm like, you don't have to line up, you don't have to, I'm gonna walk across the door. Go to math, that's where you go. So it's all of that, that's all a lot, there's so many things around. So the brain is huge, the more you know about what's going on in the brain at this age, the better you can kind of prepare for some things you're gonna see. And the more the kids know about it, they definitely feel a little more in control when they understand things. So I talk about the brain all the time in my class, about whether it's, okay, the brain likes when we organize information this way, or the brain likes this. So the more you can familiarize yourself a lot with like what Mr. Smith said, of things they're going through at this time, you can kind of, it's kind of like that what to do, you know, with the parent book. It can kind of help you prep for some of these things when they start showing up. So some things that go on, self-awareness. This is their emotions and their thoughts and how it influences the way that they behave. They are doing two things at once. They are pushing for independence, which is natural, and that's, again, part of that brain development, but they are desperately craving to belong to a group. So there's a lot of this push and pull that happens throughout 6th grade, where they're trying to pull away, they're trying to express their independence. You're trying to give them that independence to a point, but you don't want them falling off the cliff either, and so they have to pull back in a little bit. They're also trying to get that group identity, and that comes with like their friend groups. They're switching in the brain also from very concrete learning to starting to conceptualize abstract thought. And that helps in the classroom, in certain math expressions, or the way that we learn science. But it's also that concept of like, who am I? What do I think about that? What's my opinion? You know, it's not just the opinion that has been the consensus at home or anything, but they start self-reflecting and trying to identify, you know, kind of where they fit in the world. We talk about what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses in the classroom. So there's a lot of that internalizing of a lot of that. One of my favorite things, I teach this in my brain elective, it's called Flip Your Lid. If you just think about putting your thumb inside your hand and curling your fingers over, this part inside of the brain is where all the feelings are, emotions. Comes from long ago, the way that the brain first started forming. And then the outer part is it's kind of your smart decision making. And so when you have extreme anxiety or extreme anger or danger, our old school brain like puts you into action, like run from the alligator. Like don't sit and think about what you should do. You flip your lid and your emotions come out and action takes over and you go and you run. Well, running from an alligator is a major danger. To these guys, having a homework assignment due that they forgot about, that flips their lid too. So anything that triggers anger or anxiety, they flip that lid, meaning they lose all that reasoning and straight emotion comes out, okay? And the more they understand that this is what's going on in their brain, it's all about big feelings. I was saying, it's a roller coaster. They may get in the car and be crying, and an hour later they're laughing hysterically, and you just don't know what's going to come at you every hour of the day. So it's a lot of big feelings, and they sometimes are confused because they don't understand where these huge feelings are coming from. Like, why am I so amazingly angry at my little brother? And they don't really understand a lot. So there's a lot of lid flipping, where again, like I said, that the feelings and the emotions take over, and the reasoning and the ability to talk through it is out the door. So coming up with some like ways to process that and handle it when it happens. Breathing is a big one. Because some of this might happen at school where you're not around. And some of it might be happening and they don't want to stand out in any way. So it's happening in here and they're sitting in the classroom and we have to talk through what could they do. So there's a lot of that. We do talk through some of that to ourselves within our advisory and things like that. Like, oh, may I go to the nurse? And she has this really great quiet room at the back and I just need to breathe or I just need to cry. That's completely okay. So just kind of giving them some tools so that they don't feel like they're trapped in a classroom having all of these feelings and they don't feel like they have somewhere safe they can go. So flipping the lid, we talk about that a lot. I talk about that with my 8-year-old. Sometimes you get a lot of feelings. So things that can trigger that though is the self-management piece. And I promise I'll go through the rest of them quicker. So self-management is where they're starting to work on those executive functioning skills. They're learning how to be organized. They're learning how to manage their time. They want to do everything, and at first they jump right into the fall and they want to be in the play and they want to be on the volleyball team, but then they're also trying to manage all of their schoolwork, and so that can also trigger all that anxiety and that panic at home. So trying to manage that in any way you can help them. They learn note-taking, they learn goal setting. These are all back to that kind of abstract thinking of trying to see where their place in their day-to-day. They go through a lot of social awareness. There's a great scene in this movie where she stands up and she's like having a panic attack and she starts crying and he's like, oh my God, we're crying at school. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? These are all the characters in her brain, like trying to figure out what should we do? We're crying at school. So they have these feelings of either everyone is looking at me and that's kind of what's going on in their head. Oh my God, everybody's looking at me. Everybody's looking at me. What should I do? Or they have the feeling of no one understands what I'm feeling. You don't understand, Mom. And I know there's phases, I have an 8-year-old, so there's phases of this that they've already gone through as children. This is where a lot of the eye rolling comes in. God, you don't understand, nobody understands me. So there's that sense of almost like not feeling connected because nobody can understand what I'm going through. The I already know phase. In class, they definitely, I see this a lot, they start to slowly find their voice as, again, this identity that they're establishing takes over. They trust that voice. They learn to share their opinions and their ideas in class. They start to develop some leadership skills, or they identify that they want to be a leader, and they try some of these things that we offer to them, like offering the community service opportunities that lead to junior honor society. So they are pursuing some of this on their own. And so then some of that also, that self-awareness and social awareness, then leads into some of their, their relationship skills. They begin definitely expressing empathy a lot more, and understanding between each other. In the beginning, I see more of still the divide between the boys and the girls, but we're starting to roll into that backside of 6th grade. So like come March, it's a lot more. They get a little more chatty again. They're really chatty in the beginning because they're excited and they're like little puppies, and then they kind of settle in, and then we get to March, and they're chatting for a whole other reason because it's more like attention seeking, boy versus girl kind of stuff. We see that towards the end of 6th grade. But it's healthy, it's normal development as they start opening their awareness to others besides just themselves. The friend groups can sometimes shift at this age from lower school. Their likes and their dislikes change. They start to identify what they like, what they don't like. They may not agree with the behaviors of another person and decide, you know what, I just don't know that I want to be friends with that person anymore because I don't really feel comfortable with them. New students will move in, students will move out, so we do see some shifting as they're all trying to kind of find their place. They form strong opinions about right and wrong in their relationships, and some of them also, because of the opportunities of theater now and sports, some of them may take one path versus another between their friends. And then just decision-making, responsible decision-making, that's kind of every day. That goes back a little bit to the time management piece and the organization and trying to decide, they have to start prioritizing. We start giving them lots of structure in our classes of ways for them to look through, and we talk through every day, okay, what big tests do we have this week? What big games do we have this week? What big projects do we have this week? So you have 20 minutes of study hall time. What decision are you going to make to do with your time? Okay, are you going to, they get the freedom of being able to sign out and go see a teacher. So for the first couple of weeks, I literally have a class of 2 because they're all, oh, I'm going to go to this teacher. I'm going to go to this teacher. They spend the whole time just running around to different teachers, asking a single question, and then they get behind. So they realize, oh, I should probably sit, again, responsible decision. Got to let them try it. Got to let them see it's not working for most of them. You got to let them make a new decision. All in that safety of that 40-minute conversation that we have. So have fun with it. We're all here for you. We live it every day. This is a super fun, I wouldn't do it, this 23 years I've been here, I've always had 6th grade, I've had other grades, but I've always had 6th grade. I love it, I absolutely love it. It's so fun and rewarding to see where they are and then where they get to. And it is fun. This is the fun part of the year, because this is where I know that I can be here and I can give 3 instructions on my board and post something on Google Classroom, and my kids are running it right now. And I don't have to have a panic attack to my son, because they can do it. They know what to do, they know the expectations. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I promise. And they always at different times, so please don't compare them. They hate that. This age group hates being compared either to their older sibling or to the others. Just know that they are all completely going to get there. It's just not going to be exactly the same. It's not going to be the exact same the way you did it, and it's not going to be the same way your older child did it. They're going to learn differently than the way you did it. These are some of the fights I'm trying to help you prevent having later. It's just kind of like absorb them and see what's working and what's not.
So one quote that I had from so I was always lower school, right? And one of my lower school teachers also taught middle school from my former school. And I said, what did you like about middle school so much? And she said, oh, I love teaching middle school because the excitement was the student coming into the classroom. I had no idea what student was coming into my classroom and how they might change coming out of my classroom. And it was all within one period. So it's the range of emotions that we go through in one period even. And that's true excitement because that person is feeling so many different emotions. It really, really is. All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Sarah, appreciate it. So one thing that we can do to help our students with all these emotions is something brand new that your child is going to be experiencing is advisory. Advisory happens for about 15 to 20 minutes every day at the start of each morning. That's going to be considered your homeroom kind of like teacher, for lack of a better word. Like we have all these homeroom classrooms now. Well, they're going to be experiencing advisory during the morning, every morning for 15 minutes, and then they get off to the races. They go to their classes right after that. During that time of advisory, it's a lot of community building. It's a lot of an opportunity for them to begin forming relationships and bonding. One thing that Sarah talked about with friendship, just want to say this too. I'm a parent too. I have a 9th grader. I'm still experiencing these teenage years. And one thing that I found very, very helpful that the middle school director said at my former school was that one thing you can expect in 6th grade, because your heart is so much concerned about wanting your child to fit in and wanting them to be happy in school and such. And friendship is a big, big factor with that, right? Well, one thing that she said that was so true in my life, and she said, and I didn't want it to happen, she just said, the friendships that your child has right now, the core group, will not be the core group next year. And I was like, no! I was like, they're really a good group right now. I like this group. I want this group to travel until graduation. No. It was the case, 6th grade, and my daughter was like, oh, my friends are gone. All my friends are gone. I don't have anybody to be with. The next year, 2 of them came back. In the 8th grade year, all of them were the core group again. But it's that roller coaster, and one of the things that we help in advisory is doing that, getting them to understand that they are going to have different friends. And we have different types of lessons for the advisory. I did a whole thing on time management and goal setting this year, because a lot of them don't know how to make goals and how to plan goals and time management. So we did a lot of that. Study skills, how to take notes. That is hard, how to take notes. One thing I'd like to try and do for our lower school moving forward, because I have all these big, big ideas and I've only been here 7 months, is to try and help lower school students better understand how to take notes. So it's not such a big deal in the middle school here as well too. Or how to study. How do you study? Do you know what I mean? I remember in lower school, my mom and dad would read the notes and I would then answer the questions. In middle school, they're not wanting you to read the notes as much. So how do they study them? Well, that's one of the things that we cover in advisories. Any important issues that need to be discussed. There's always times in the middle school that all of a sudden a hot burning topic comes up in the classroom, whether it's friendships that are colliding, and we never necessarily say to them, well, Becky's having a problem with Jane. We don't say that. No, never. But we could address it in a broader issue. So that could be something. And then another really big thing, and I know that our middle school and upper school parents have heard a lot of it. Lower school, not so much because it doesn't deal with lower school. It's a brand new program called Win It Social. We've been working with the Social Institute, the middle school and upper school has, where it is this program that deals with social media and how we can better understand social media. Because so when Paul was talking about AI today, right? AI's been here artificial intelligence has been here for a long, long time. It's now impacting education just now. So it's kind of like 1201. We're at 1201 right now with artificial intelligence and it's coming at us, right? I remember when we were at 1201 with technology in the classroom, such as smart boards and internet and technology. And I was like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that coming in at my children. And I remember telling my technology director, please wrap your arms around it as much as we can and protect our kids as much as we can. The problem is with technology, you can't. You can't protect them. So what can we do? We can educate them on how to deal with it better. And that's what When It's Social is. It will bring up last week's When It's Social for 6 through 12 was how to protect your privacy like you're famous. So it taught them how to do those skills of how to protect themselves when on social media programs. And they'll bring up a question. Here's a question that they brought up, and they use their technology devices to register their answers and things like that, and then the advisor will talk about it. Such as, here's an example for y'all. You ready? And if I've already said this before, I apologize. But the question was, my daughter brought it up to me, and she said, okay, Dad, would you rather, you have two choices. Would you rather have a picture of you on social media that is not a good picture, right? Somebody posted that is not a good picture. Or would you rather go to somebody's other social media program, such as Instagram, and like something of theirs that was really dated? Okay? Dated, meaning it wasn't just yesterday's Instagram post. This was like a year ago post. So would you rather like something that is really dated, or have a picture of yourself as not a pleasing picture? Okay, just a show of hands, you ready? If you'd rather have a picture of yourself that's not pleasing, raise your hand. Okay? Okay? Or like something that is really dated from another person's contact. Okay? I went with that.
Yes.
The majority of the students all said, I would rather have a picture of me not pleasing, which I thought would be totally opposite. And I said, why? And she said, well, Dad, it shows you that you're trolling them and that you're looking at their past stuff, and that's weird, Dad. We don't do that. And I'm like, well, I would. I like that. I want to say that this is a really good picture of you, or I really enjoy that. Well, it's all about how we deal with social media. And it's been a really good program so far, especially for our 7th and 8th graders, because it ain't going anywhere. It's not, unfortunately. All right. So, next thing. What you can experience. This is a schedule. Gone are the days of the lower school where they all are in one classroom. Okay? This is just a Monday, Wednesday schedule. You'll see that there's all different types of classes that they go to, and they weave in and out, in and out, in and out. What you can expect is this right here. There's 4 subjects. They have 5 core subjects that they're going to be experiencing. They're going to be having 6th grade English. Everybody takes 6th grade English. And Miss Witt is a great teacher for that. She's the librarian, and she knows all the students already, so that's a great attribute right there. She gets really heavily into grammar. Foreign language. We'll talk more about foreign language in a second. Global studies. That is what Miss Benedict teaches. She teaches global studies and science. 6th grade. Everybody takes it. This is kind of like our social studies or our history. Okay. So global studies, science, 6th grade science, everybody takes it, and also everybody does a science fair project. We'll talk about that more in regards to electives. And when I say everybody does it, it doesn't mean parents, okay? It doesn't mean parents. I remember when my dad did it, and I said that, my dad did it, and he had the best project out of anybody, okay? So no, the students do it. Math, that is the big one right there. And I have one of the best math teachers here, Mr. Tavino. Come on over, Mr. Tavino. Come on over. Give him a big round of applause. Mr. Tavino. Math is the one subject that is leveled. Math is leveled starting in 6th grade. You'll notice these other classes, they're all 6th grade. All 6th grade. All 6th grade. But math is leveled. And Mr. Tavino here, once again, I'm so blessed to have such a talented faculty. Mr. Tavino not only really understands the 6th grade mind, but he also understands math really, really well too. So I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Vito take it over to talk about math.
Good morning. Good morning. Little history. I've been in prep, I think this is 8 years now, and I was at the public middle school for about 9 years before that, teaching 8th grade. And then actually I started my career here at prep 7 years prior. So I was prep middle school at the public school and then back here to prep. So I taught all levels, but I've really found an area I like in the middle school. It was 8th grade only for a long time at the public school, and then coming here, of course, you have the opportunity to teach 6th, 7th, and 8th. So that's been a lot of fun to see that growth and to see the students develop mathematically, of course, along with everything else that you saw earlier. I'm going to go kind of quickly because I know you don't want to hear all the details here, but please feel free to ask questions at any time. So you're all current prep parents, so I'll kind of adjust this to how we do the math in the middle school. So 6th grade, we have 2 classes, a pre-algebra and a math 6. Math 6 is grade level, 6th grade mathematics. The pre-algebra is more of an advanced course. It moves a little quicker. It's for your stronger math students coming out of the 5th grade. How is that decided? Typically, we look at transcripts. For a student coming from out of this school, we would look at transcripts. We would look at any national standardized testing. And of course, if we could get a hold of their teacher recommendations. All of those on their own are not the best judgment, but together we can kind of get a picture. We have a great advantage here. We can just walk down the hall and talk to the 5th grade math teacher, right? And they usually provide the recommendations of who goes where in 6th grade, because they know best and they know the child best. So from that point, you can see all these lines I drew here. So the pre-algebra, if we were to take the highest really, the student is just excelling throughout middle school math, they would go pre-algebra, algebra 1 in 7th grade, and geometry in 8th grade. Okay? What that turns into in high school would be from geometry, it could be algebra 2 honors, for again the strongest, the highest track. There's a regular algebra 2, and then this has only happened once since I've been here. Someone retook geometry, and that was even my recommendation. That was a parent that wanted to do that. All these that I have listed here, by the way, are all high school courses. Okay? So that would be the high track. These people end up in the AP calculus, AP statistics, college credit stuff. If we find a student that maybe needs a little bit more background, maybe needs to pump the brakes a little bit, we created this foundations of algebra. It's kind of like Algebra 1 light. It doesn't go as fast as Algebra 1. It may not have the complexity of the depth of Algebra 1, but it's the principles and the concepts and the standards that you get in Algebra 1. That student here will then take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and then geometry 9th grade, and whatever track. And the other track would be some student who still needs those fundamentals to do pre-algebra in 7th grade and foundations in 8th, and then algebra 1 in 9th. So you can see these are what we're shooting for in the 9th grade, is to have students ready either for algebra 1 geometry or algebra 2. This is always, except for 1 year with enrollment, there was a 3rd class, but it'll either be one of those 2 classes, depending on how the students and the numbers fall. That being said, there's also alternative paths I put where we have some flexibility where students can go, depending on performance and depending on their growth mathematically. And that change can either be done sometimes mid-year or after the first quarter. We find a student that has really excelled, they've found their way, they are doing really well. Hey, I think this student should be pushed up to algebra 1 or pre-algebra if it's 6th grade. Maybe we find a student too that is really struggling. Hey, maybe they need to go and get back to the basics, get their confidence up, get the fundamentals down. So we have some flexibility, not only vertically, but horizontally as well. Okay? And those are all discussions between me, Mr. Smith, the other teacher, Ms. Lillehart, and of course you. Right? And sometimes the student might be the one who says, this is going too fast, it's too much, I'm not ready for this. So, there's all kinds of things we can take into it. So we've got these, I think, a lot of flexibility in the middle school to find the right place for your child, for the math student. I guess I can stop it here.
So does anybody have, this is one of the only classes that there's a decision to be made for 6th grade. And I don't want this to be alarming in the sense that, oh my gosh, we've got to make a decision and this is the path that's going to be taught. One thing that I've appreciated very, very much coming over here to prep at my former school, once the decision's been made in the year, pretty much it was set. There's been many times that I've had conversations when Larry was mentioning a student all of a sudden voicing for themselves and saying, you know what, this is just going on too fast. That is true, where the student has advocated for themselves and said, this is the case. Or, another thing that's happened is the teacher's all of a sudden going, okay, this is way too easy for this student. It's way too easy. They're scoring A's on the first couple tests. We need to challenge them more. We're switching them to another class. That is so unlike the school I just came from. The school I came from, it was set for that semester. It was a done deal. I don't want this to be the case, the norm, but we even changed somebody after the first quarter because it was going too much. It was just too hard for them. They really, really care, and they want to differentiate to your child's strengths. And I really appreciate that as well. So don't be alarmed that, okay, once we're on this path, this is going to be it. It's not the case. We can always make adjustments throughout. But I'm not saying once the semester hits that we're going to recommend moving them then. That's pretty much a done deal after that. We need to continue the course with them. Questions? Because Mr. Tanita is going to go back to math class right now. Questions? Yes, sir.
Okay, the difference between pre-algebra and math, I guess pre-algebra is more difficult, but is the challenge more the concepts or crank out 20 of these very similar problems? Because like the current math curriculum seems a lot of new math and think about it this differently and do it 20 times, where that's the challenge is cranking out more and more and more of the same, like you do in statistics, where the concept, so what's the challenge we have? The concepts, or is it the amount of work, or does it have both?
I would go concepts primarily.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I think in Math 6, we're making sure they can do obviously the 4 operations, but with fractions, with decimals, with things like that. In the pre-algebra, it's more applying concepts to problems, so word problems, a little bit more abstract thinking, maybe taking situations and stuff like that. That being said, the speed could be a difference, how fast. With this particular class, and the 2 teachers, myself and Ms. Willard, it's flexible each year, who teaches what. We try not to have one student get stuck with us for 3 years, so we kind of adjust it that way. But for the pre-algebra 6, I'm thinking I want this student prepared for algebra 1. So I'm working in algebra 1. I should have mentioned this. Algebra 1 and geometry are high school level courses. Okay? They do go on a high school transcript. It's important to know that they don't go into a GPA. They're not calculated into that or into class rank or anything. So it doesn't carry that much weight, but it is considered a high school level course. So I think we're trying to prepare these students for that kind of level of mathematics.
Right.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does. It's just what's more of the emphasis on?
Right.
Priming it out or being able to get with the concept?
Yeah, I think this is more getting those basic skills, fundamentals to launch into next level mathematics. The assumption is that they have those skills, they're good with them. Now we're going to launch into another level of mathematics.
So if a child goes into pre-algebra, they're kind of holding their own, but it's a little tough. I like the flexibility where they can shift down to foundations and,
Yeah, that's a conversation we had at the end of the year with Mr. Smith, myself, the other math teacher, where we'll look at the students coming out of this year and say, we've got these three options. And again, the beauty, I said, is that can work horizontally if we find out, because in middle school, in math especially, I think kids will hit their stride, kids will hit some hurdles, run into some hurdles. And it's how they deal with that. Sometimes the biggest challenge for a student in math in middle school is, for the first time, something doesn't come easily. Okay, how are you going to handle that? Are you going to work hard and roll your sleeves up and get after it, put some extra time and get some extra help? Or are you going to go, this is too hard? So that's kind of what we look at and what we see. So that's why we have this nice ability to go this way as well, even after a quarter of the year. Yeah.
Besides pre-algebra, what else do you teach?
Personally?
Yes.
I have pre-algebra. This year, a little bit different. I do the pre-algebra 7 as well, and I do geometry and foundations 8.
Who teaches algebra?
Algebra 1 is Miss Lillihart right now, so she has these two classes. Like I mentioned, we want them to get different styles of teaching, so we want them, so, from here, these are both Miss Lillihart. So I'm here, we try to get that. Doesn't work every time, but...
Any other questions? I'm sure you do. But you can always contact Mr. Tavino or myself too as well. Thank you very much. Okay, the next biggest challenge is foreign language to understand. That's what I mean by challenge. Hilton Head Prep offers 2 languages. They offer Chinese and they offer Spanish. Your child, if attending here, has had an exploratory Spanish every single year. Exploratory, emphasis on exploratory, meaning that they're getting to know the language, getting to know the culture. It's a brief exposure to it each week. This is where we really dive into it. During the 6th grade year, your child will be able to experience both languages. For one semester, it will be Chinese. For the other semester, it will be Spanish. And it's random who goes into which one during which semester. It's during the 7th and 8th grade year, it's during the 7th and 8th grade year where they're going to be making a decision. And that's why it's hard to believe, but during that 6th grade year, they're going to need to begin to think about, seriously, which path they want to take, whether it's Spanish or whether it's Chinese. Because unlike math, we're not going to want them to change after the 7th grade year into the 8th grade year, change the language. The reason being is this. This right here, Spanish, is built on this right here, this Spanish. So they're not going to be learning about hola during their 8th grade year. They're going to be learning what this class right here has already been taught. Does that make sense? Now, their upper school year, 9th grade year, they're going to be learning either Chinese or Spanish 1 or Spanish 2. Here's the thing. Spanish 1 in 9th grade year is divided up by Spanish 1A and Spanish in 8th grade 1B. So what 9th grade Spanish is divided up as Spanish 1. The first half of the year in 9th grade is going to be the entire year in 7th grade. The second half in 9th grade of Spanish 1 is the whole year of 8th grade. Does that make sense? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to take it at a slower pace. We're breaking it in half and we're taking it at a slower pace so they can understand it better. Okay? Now, when they get to upper school, you heard him talk about, Mr. Tavino talk about a GPA. We are a college preparatory program. One of the things we have to do in a college preparatory program is prepare them for foreign language, because in order to get into college, you have to have 2 years of a foreign language. That doesn't start until upper school. So this right here will not impact their upper school preparatory program. I mean, to get into college. Does that make sense? But it will prepare them for what path they want to take in 9th grade. And they'll have the option to either take Spanish 1, again, if it was a little bit hard, if it was a little bit difficult for a college credit. Or if they all of a sudden are jamming on it and are really enjoying it, then what they can do is they can go to Spanish 2. And then that will lead to AP as well also. Does that make sense? Any questions about foreign language? Okay, great. The next thing we're going to talk about is academic support. I think this is extremely beneficial. And this is it's a signature program of Hilton Head Prep. I think this is what makes us stand out to other schools. We have for our middle school a study hall in some sense. This is a 35-minute period. All the other periods, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Cons, 45? 40 minutes because it's so many minutes of travel time. It's 5 minutes of travel time between classes. But this is 35 minutes, and what this is it's a study hall basically for them either to get started on their homework now, especially if they're involved in sports or academies, or it's a time to get caught up on missed work. Or, and this is why I love it the most, is that it gives them a time to all of a sudden go to visit a teacher they need help with. Because all the middle school teachers all have this time set aside where it all of a sudden stops, the clock stops and says, you know what? If you had trouble understanding your history lesson for some reason, your global studies lesson, then you can go to Miss Benedict and say, Miss Benedict, I didn't understand that concept. Or, Mr. Tavino, I didn't understand how to do this math problem. All they have to do is they have to tell their teacher where they're going so that we can keep an eye on who's going where. And that they can get caught up for that valuable extra time from teachers. Also, advisors use it as a checkpoint for assignments and grades too. Advisors will talk to the other teachers saying, you know what? We need Johnny to go to math help today. We really do, because we're noticing Johnny's not quite getting it right now. So the advisors will step in on behalf of the student and say, Johnny, you need to go to math. Let's go to math right now. So this is I wish I had this in school. I think this is extremely valuable, and it certainly is a signature program at Hilton Head Prep. The next one, your students are, as of currently, have a last period called electives. Electives are a little bit of the choice that it gives the student the voice to choice to make their own choices. It's usually the last period, it's always the last period of the day in the middle school. The first half of the year, everybody takes science fair because everybody does science fair. Science fair is not limited to middle school. My daughter, who's in biology in a freshman year, she had a science fair project as well. So they really begin the process of the scientific process of that in the 6th grade year. Here are some other ones as well too. There's band, there's strings, there's ceramics for 8th grade, there's printmaking. Mr. Tavino does a great one. He did 2 of them this year. One was for, bless you, one was for environmental appreciation, and they would take walks in the wood during in our forest preserve right here, wildlife preserve. And then he did a second one, which was all about animal advocacy. So there's all different types of them. There's journalism, there's debate sometimes. They change throughout. So this list right here is not necessarily going to be the exact list that's going to be offered for next year, but all it's all given by middle school teachers. Yes?
What is the prep support team?
Prep support team. That one right there at that time was more of like a homework advisory type of one. That wasn't offered this year, correct?
It's Mr. Tavino's elective right now where they're giving support on campus to other people like Mr.
Gotcha.
Maples or Mr. LaValle.
Yeah. So it's offering, so what it was it's offering support to other individuals, such as right now they've been helping was it the kindergarten class? No, it was the first graders. Ms. Frederick's first graders with reading to the students. There was also some times where they helped a upper school teacher with some type of materials that they had to move from one area to the next. It's a philanthropic type of activity that of helping others.
Helping hands.
Yep, helping hands. Makes light work. Athletics. This is one of the big things, the important things in the kids' mind, the students' minds, are athletics. We offer PE in lower school. PE's gone in middle school because there's a much larger offering of athletics during the middle school and upper school years. And we have Eric Matheson, our athletic director, to tell you a little bit more. Eric, come on up.
Hi everybody, a lot of familiar faces here, so I'm excited to talk to you guys about this transition from lower school into middle school and what athletics means, and then I'll also get a little bit into our academies. But just to piggyback on what you just heard, all sixth graders take science fair in the first semester, so the academy conversation, if your child is interested in doing any of our academies, that will not be available to them until the second semester as a sixth grader. And that's usually a really good thing. Sometimes sixth grade get a little daunting, more homework, more classwork. You know, obviously we're talking about them developing in other areas as well. Sometimes that's a lot to put on their plates, and it's a good time for them to kind of not have it all hit at once, so they get a semester to kind of really settle in. So you see, we got a lot of sports that we offer. Hilton Head Prep, we compete in what's called the South Carolina Independent School Association, SCISA, and then we're broken up into a lot of different classifications. So that'll change between our varsity sports and who we compete against, and then our middle school sports and who we compete against. So for the most part, we really try to stay local with middle school. We don't really like to drive all that far. Buford Academy is probably one of the furthest, and Bethesda. We usually schedule our games, which is an all-boys school in Savannah. So sometimes we'll go about that far, but don't like to go much further than that with these guys, just so they don't have too many late nights and things like that. But with that being said, there's also a few sports that we offer that do go from 6th grade to 12th grade as a varsity sport, and that's sanctioned by SCISA. All right, so we have things like the swimming team, tennis, golf. Those are sports that we've had 6th graders play varsity on that level, which can be pretty daunting, but for the most part, those are really, really good communities and kids. A lot of seniors that have played on those teams played when they were in 6th grade, and they're really good about supporting the young ones and kind of bringing them up and kind of mentoring them. Another thing that we do, so middle school sports practice is usually right after school. So from that 2:25, depending on when the coach kind of can wrangle them all up and get them going, they'll practice right at that time so that they're not going home. We don't have to wait around and get in trouble or do something they shouldn't be doing. Like, just finish, get out to practice, and then get picked up. So no matter what sport it is, for a middle school level, it's going to be right after school practice. If they're playing a varsity sport, that could change, but that's usually a good situation that everybody's kind of prepared for. We do allow our kids to play multiple sports as well, so we've had many instances where our kid, let's say he's a varsity tennis player, but he also plays baseball. We kind of work together on that, so we pick if you're playing, so for example, like we had a 6th grader who was one of our best boys tennis players one year, actually, and he also played baseball. So because it was a varsity tennis team and a middle school baseball team, priority goes to the varsity team if there's a conflict, and then we would just work together as coaches and with parents to make sure that we don't want to put that kid in the middle of saying like, hey, one coach is telling you have to be this place, and the other coach is telling you have to be this place, and you got to get pulled from them. So we set those expectations at the beginning of the season and says, hey, tennis first, no matter what, and then we'll work with you on the other things. And we've had that in football, which is cross country and football at the same time and things like that. So just a lot of communication about how to manage that properly, and not put the kid in a tough situation where he's going to succeed here. Mike Helms, who's our lower school PE teacher, who you probably know, he's the middle school athletic director as well, so he'll be a point of contact for you, and then obviously I'm always available for these things. I coach middle school baseball, I coach middle school volleyball, so I love it. I think these are some of the most fun times to coach kids is this age group. Every little victory that you have, you get to celebrate with the kids, whether that's like, hey, I hit the ball over the net for the first time on a serve, or, you know, I got an at-bat and, you know, I'm just happy to get the game. It's so much fun to see them kind of get the joy of the sport. So, and that's really what the philosophy is with middle school sports here. We want your kids to try whatever sport they want to try. Now's the time to do it. Yeah.
What are the seasons of the sport?
Sure. So it's you know, fall, winter, and spring. So in the fall, you're going to have football, cheerleading, cross country, volleyball, and girls tennis and swimming. And sailing is a weird one because it's a fall sport, but the championship is actually going to be in March. So, and then depending on the wind that comes around the island, there's times where there's no wind whatsoever and you can't sail. And then there's times where it picks up and it's like, okay, now we got to go. So sailing's a weird one, but it's, we can talk through that, and sixth graders can do that as well. And then in the winter, right now, we just have basketball. So our winter is basketball only as of right now. And then in the spring, you have soccer, golf, and baseball. And we also do have some track, and that's kind of unique. If you have the right kids that want to do it, they can individually enter different meets. So it's not something that we really say, you know, hey, we have a track team and it's this many kids and we're going to go to 6 different meets. We got to see which ones, you know, if we only have 3 kids and they only do the distance runs, you know, we might not enter the same meets that we would if we had everybody. We currently don't have any throwing or jumping events. That could change. So that was an easy one to do.
So for girls, I'm assuming obviously cheerleading, cross country, volleyball, tennis, sailing, swimming. Is there girls basketball? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
We actually had 2 middle school teams this year for girls basketball.
And we have 2 strong middle team, A and B, girls and boys.
And boys.
Basketball. They're really, really strong this year.
And same with volleyball. We needed to have 2 teams for the first time in a while for volleyball this year too. So we had an A and B. I'm sorry? In the fall. Yes.
So for your smaller teams like tennis and golf for 6th graders, how does that work with tryouts and being on a team and cutting and that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, so if they're going to try out for a varsity sport, they will have to go through a potential cut process. And I say potential because we haven't really had to do it recently at all. For something like girls golf, we know the numbers are going to be down because we graduated a lot of girls. So we actually had a 6th grader, you know, compete on the varsity team that won the state title. So our top golfer has been the champion 2 years in a row. So there was no tryout for that because it was like, yeah, we need you. We'd take 3 more if we could, you know, so come on out. And that's really cool in the fall if golf is that thing. That's really cool in the fall because we have the space. The courses around here aren't that busy.
Where do y'all play in practice?
Well, we go to Port Royal for the girls. The boys in the spring, we go to Palmetto Dunes. The boys is a little more competitive right now. There's about 20 kids that'll come out. That's way too many to have in a varsity team. You usually play 5 and count 4, so 20 is really tough. But we do have, again, we have the space that we can go and practice and get some help in there. And then there's also like this element of these sports where if that team does become kind of really too big, that's why we have these B teams. But then we also have an ability then to say, like, let's say in middle school baseball, my first year that I coached here, I had about 18 kids come out for middle school baseball. And there's 9 that can play. And then there's a couple that you can sub in, but our substitution rules are different in baseball. You can't just freely substitute, right? So I also can't fit 18 kids on a bus or on many of the benches that we're on. They just don't fit. So what we tend to then do is a lot of communication about this, but also like sometimes, especially in 6th grade, you might not be ready to play. So we play on a the dimensions of our baseball field are meant for not 6th grade age. That age group, if they go play rec sports, they're not going to play on that size field that we play on. So it's a really tough thing to say, hey, you got to go out and compete against these kids. You might be better off, like, let's work on our skill development, part of the team, but you're not necessarily going to come to every game. If you're a home game, dress out, and you can be here, you can be a great teammate, you can help out and do all the things in practice, but it's not really a great place for you to succeed if I'm throwing you out there to the wolves and you're going to fail over and over and over again and then hate the sport. That's not really great. So with that being said, we do have 6th graders that are ready. So that's usually a conversation with parents and coaches. Yeah.
What's the academy?
Sure. So academies, we have a couple academies here on campus that we do, and those are basketball, volleyball, baseball, and soccer. Soccer they can do in the mornings, and so Soccer Academy, it's run by Coach Miguel, who's with Clemente. That starts at like 7 a.m. And then if you're in middle school, you won't have it built into your schedule per se. So that's, you get there really early, you work out, and then you go to class. You get ready to go in time for class. So we've had that happen quite a bit. And then baseball and volleyball are in the afternoons. So what the middle school will do is at 2:25, they'll get out, they'll go to the academy. If they're playing another sport, that academy time is going to be really, really tight. So sometimes, so that's at like 1, I'm sorry, I said 2:25, but when they build it in, that's during their elective time. So instead of choosing an elective, they'll come out to me in baseball at like 1:50, usually they get out there. And then a lot of my kids do play other sports, which is why they like doing academies, so they can kind of like keep their skills up to date.
And that's what academies are.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily playing against other teams
No.
or anything of that nature.
No.
It's all skill-based. It's mastering the skills.
Yeah, and there's no team practices in that. So you're not practicing for a team, you're not trying out during that time. It is like an individual skill development program. So then as soon as they need to go, let's say they're playing basketball right now, I kind of lose those kids right at about 2:30, 2:20. So they're there for a little bit of time, and then they kind of go. And so, yeah.
My daughter does morning soccer academy, and there's kids from other schools. Is that the same with the other academies?
Not necessarily. So the deal with the academies is the only way that we can do them is make it open to the public. So they have to go through a registration process and all that good stuff too. But I've had multiple international kids actually come into our academies because their families were staying in Sea Pines, and they said, "Oh, we heard about it. We'd love to check it out." I was like, "Cool." So I had a kid from Canada that was here for like 2 months, and he became like part of our little group, which was really cool. So that's why you might see some kids from outside that have the time and the means to do the academy. So sure, that's very possible. So yeah.
Is there ever a situation where the academies end up, for lack of the word, pilfering kids? I mean, I know Tormento's got their own little tournaments and teams and travel teams and, whatever they call it.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, like, the story about why Academy started was actually for girls soccer. That's where the impetus came from, because those girls were being told, hey, you need to be at all of our practices, which were almost every day of the week kind of thing, and don't play your high school sport, so we kind of created them with the idea of, we had a lot of girls that would play 3 sports, volleyball, basketball, and soccer. So in order to keep them being able to play those, the deal that was kind of made was like, well, what if we get your workout done in the morning? So that's actually been pretty good about that. Now, if you get to a certain level, especially in boys soccer, we have a couple kids that are at such a high level that they do not play for our school. So that's few and far between. But what we've seen, especially with some of these kids, is that the academies are actually going to allow them to keep playing the sports for us instead of pulling them away, which is what I think is really helpful. If that changes, we'll probably look at how we do it. So I know the travel sports world is a mess. So that's something that I know of. And then we'll stop. So let's say in the springtime right now, we won't play a ton of baseball games for middle school. And the reason for that is kind of twofold. One of them is because we have to throw pitches, and there's pitch rules, and there's arm care rules and all that stuff. You can't play all that much unless you have a huge roster. And the second part is we know a lot of our kids still play rec and they still play travel ball. And those coaches want that season to start before we want it to. So that's always a battle that we face. So we try to work with everybody in the community.
Any other questions?
Just please, you had said the tennis for girls was in the fall.
It is.
How about the boys in the
Spring. Yep, and our girls are state champs in tennis. And our boys are, it's something like they won 9 out of the last 10 state titles. And they're going to win again this year.
Boys tennis, where do they practice?
Boys and girls both go to South Beach Racket.
Okay.
So inside some.
Just one comment for everybody. Middle school sports is about the best thing going. It's awesome. It starts right after school. I help coach with football. You can pick your kid up at 4 instead of 2:30. But that's good. But when we have like a 6th grader, please send your son out for middle school football. We're not going to take a 6th grader and put an 8th grader against and be like, what would happen here? I don't know. No, it's not like that with any of these sports. My older child has just been through these and is still in these. And it's the best team building thing we have. We could send all the 6th grade boys on a retreat to Colorado with ropes and whatever else. And that would be team building. But this is great team building right here, right after school, super convenient. And they become best friends in those groups. And it's a wonderful thing because if you went to some other school, you may never have the chance to have your kid play football or baseball. So, don't miss out on those.
I think what's really great about middle school is that it's basically you can try every sport and you don't know if you're good at that sport or not, and you're not going to be cut. You're going to be able to learn the fundamentals and the skills and be able to dress out with the team. So I think that's really important as well.
It really does help too with time management skills. And, with any extracurricular activity, whether it's the play or sports or anything like that, it automatically elevates that level of expectations. And it's like, we'll put more on the plate, but because of that, you actually get more structure. And then they kind of have another support system as well. So there's been a ton of times that Jack knows, there's been a ton of times where because a kid does play sport, that all of a sudden they see me walking around and one of their coaches here, and they just have somebody else that they can help them with. And that happens quite a bit. And being able to, teachers can have that understanding of, we've got 3 games this week and all that stuff. Everyone's works super well together with all that stuff.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Real quick, because we're running out of time, but I just want to go back real quick. I want to make an apology real quick for misspeaking about the prep support team. It's a brand new one this year. It's the very first time we've ever offered this one. And we do offer, just to let you know, we do offer support, academic support, oftentimes before the class starts, if you arrange it with the teacher from 7:30 or 7:40 to 8. But also every teacher has to stay till 3:30. And we offer that time so that if you're not able, the child's not able to go during academic support time, they are, if they arrange it with the teacher, able to work with the teacher on homework or reinforcing that skill during that time. But I did want to say that I'm sorry I misspoke. Leadership opportunities, as Coach just mentioned, there's a number of leadership opportunities within the sports organization. We also have a middle school student council. In 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, you can be a student council representative and be involved in the weekly meetings. And also in 8th grade, you're able to run for the offices of treasurer, secretary, vice president, and president. The student council usually does a lot of organizing. They're talking about right now organizing their first informal dance coming up hopefully soon. They're going to be talking about, hey Landon, they're going to be talking about philanthropic type of opportunities as well, such as like during Thanksgiving. They raised, each grade level had a basket that they raised for families in need in the area, Thanksgiving Day baskets. So that's student council. National Junior Honor Society, Sarah Benedict touched a little bit on that. She's the sponsor for that. It is an organization that you have to have a certain grade point average, as well as community service hours as well too. But what this group does a lot is assists me a lot with opportunities for volunteering. They helped us with the Grandparents and Special Friends Day, with showing our grandparents around which ways to go. Emily Pierce, I'm going to give a shout out to the school nurse's daughter. We asked her in the very beginning, she is a National Junior Honor Society member. We asked our National Junior Honor Society members to come to the arrival areas to assist our little teeny children to the classes. Emily has come every day since then. We only asked for the first week. She's come every day since then. So National Junior Honor Society offers a lot of philanthropic opportunities. Lastly, 8th grade leadership. It formerly was known as the Golden Gold. Now it's a leadership program for the entire 8th grade community, where we try to build self-esteem, try to build relationship building, we do skills, we try to build leadership opportunities. Earlier in the year, we went to the North Carolina Black Mountain in North Carolina, where, as you mentioned about the ropes courses and things like that, they were rope courses, they scared the bejesus out of me, but I did it alongside of them. And we're going to be having a lock-in coming up shortly, where we're going to be all sleeping together in the 8th grade gym, the middle school gym, and we'll be having some seniors come and give words of wisdom to our 8th graders before they venture to the upper school. So it's just an opportunity for bonding as an 8th grade community, and also doing philanthropic opportunities as well. And we've got questions, you've got answers. Last but not least, so like I mentioned during advisory, I set, when we had our 5th graders go to the middle school just yesterday and the day before, which I've got to say, I had 2 of the teachers, middle school teachers, come to me and said they did absolutely outstanding. I don't know if they were scared or not, or if they were just rising to the occasion, but they did an awesome job. But anyway, during the advisory yesterday and the day before, I asked our 7th and 8th graders to share information that they wish they had known before they had come to our 6th grade middle school. So here are just a few. Don't procrastinate. Try to do your work as soon as you can, and use a planner. Also make sure to study. I wish I knew more about homework and how to organize it. Just want to say, to let you all know, homework is going to be different when you get to middle school. Right now, we say for lower school, for 5th grade, it should be averaging about 50 minutes. Okay? When you get to middle school, and I know this, and it's going to be a bump in the road as soon as you get there, and you're going to all of a sudden say, oh my gosh, this is so much homework. It is a step up. It is a step up. But I promise you, once you get to Halloween, October 31st, it's going to be the norm then, and they all of a sudden begin to realize how to organize and use their time management. And it's going to all of a sudden, you're just going to all of a sudden go, oh, this is okay. This is a normal amount. It's going to be anywhere from 60 minutes, so it's a bump up from 10 minutes from 5th grade, 60 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on if there's a special project or a test or something of that nature. But please know there is a bump up with the homework. The nice thing is you have that academic support time where they can start it, especially if they're playing sports. Try your hardest and trust some people. Study as best as you can and don't plagiarize. So obviously that one had a little bit of a lesson there. Trust me, don't stay up late, you get in trouble at home, and you do worse in school. Trust me on this. I wish someone told me to try every sport. You're not going to be friends with everybody, but that doesn't mean you should be rude to everybody. I wish I'd known about 6th grade and how to become more organized. I wish I'd known that crying over bad grades isn't worth it, because teachers are here to help you and get it back to normal. I wish I knew how many opportunities there were, and that I said that I could join so many academies and other sports. Study ahead for tests and quizzes. Be organized with your notes, notebooks, binders, backpack. I wish I'd known how to study better. I wish I'd known that you could get extra credit before the end of the quarter. Before 6th grade, I wish I'd known more about how to spend my time more wisely. If you notice, these are really mature type of thoughts. And that's how much they grow between 6th grade and 8th grade. So questions, any other questions? Yes, ma'am. And Ms. Hans, get ready because I don't know all the answers here because I'm new. Sure.
After school, just some other like interesting activities after school that the kids can be a part of.
Okay, so
No, it's pretty limited. Yeah.
yeah, sure, non-sports. So you have the arts. You have the arts. We have a really strong arts program with band and strings. We also have a number of. I love this about our school that we have lower school, middle school, and upper school all being able to be involved in the musicals and the plays. We're getting ready to do Shrek coming up in February, so that's really, really exciting, so they can take part in that. But funny you should mention it, Mr. Horgan just secured an individual for the position of Director of Auxiliary Services in order to begin to broaden the opportunities that could be not only for middle school, but also for lower school for clubs and activities after school as well. So there is a possibility in that, and he has just secured that position for that reason. Yes, ma'am. Other questions? I know this was a lot of information, and I do really, really appreciate your time. Please note this is not the only time that we can afford questions and answers. Our doors are always open. Ms. Contz, more so than me, Ms. Contz is a wonderful resource. She's a great historical reference for questions leading up to this day. You will have orientation coming up for your children the day before school starts, where they'll be able to come. They'll get their class schedule at that time. They'll meet their advisor for the first time there. They'll get to decorate their lockers for the first time there, which is a big, big deal. As a matter of fact, I asked our 5th graders, I said, what were the big type giveaways that you liked? And they said freedom. They said that you get your own locker, and they said you don't have to be supervised during snack time. So those were a few of the things. But it is a really, really great, exciting experience for them, and I'm just excited to be part of it with you all. So thank you all very, very much. Thank you.